What's up, everybody? GeauxBurns welcoming you to another installment of my Mafia 3 backstory series. So far, we've done Lincoln Clay, Vito Scaletta. Today, Uncle Sal, Salvatore Marcano, Don of the Marcano crime family, head of everything criminal in the city of New Bordeaux. We're going to learn as much about Sal Marcano as we already know, courtesy of Hangar 13, through trailers, the postcards, New Bordeaux Tribune, and any other place where I found any sort of knowledge in regards to Sal Marcano. Plus, we're going to talk about his real-life counterpart, who he's obviously based off more or less. So we'll discuss him as well, along with Sal Marcano, because I consider him to be template for which Hangar 13 bases Sal Marcano on. So we're going to discuss that crime boss in just a few. But first off, what do we know about Sal Marcano? Well, obviously, he is head of the Marcano crime family, and he is the main antagonist of Mafia 3. Along with his son, Giorgio, he went into Sammy's, along with his thugs, betrayed Sammy Robinson, the head of the Black Mob, killed Sammy, his son Ellis, as well as most of the rest of the Black Mob, leaving Lincoln Clay for dead and setting Sammy's bar on fire. Now, we don't know why Sal Marcano did this to Sammy and Ellis and the rest of the Black Mob, but hopefully that question will be answered in Mafia 3, because that's a mystery to me. Why would Sal Marcano go to this trouble to take out Sammy Robinson and most of the Black Mob unless there was a big reason to? Either somebody owed him money, or else he wanted more kicked back up to him, or maybe Sammy and the Black Mob did something to piss him off. We'll find out hopefully in October when Mafia 3 comes to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. Now, if we go by this first article from the New Bordeaux Tribune, Section A5 as it's called, Sal Marcano is established as a real estate mogul. He owns property throughout New Bordeaux. And obviously, the real estate business is definitely one of Sal's fronts. The next article we're going to discuss real quick is from the New Bordeaux Tribune, Section B6. And this is an historical event. Now, his name is not in this article, but it is assumed by a lot of people out there, including myself, that this ties to Sal Marcano as well as his rise to power. Now, on All Saints' Day, there was a big massacre in New Bordeaux in 1934. 18 people, including Giuseppe Carello, the Don of New Bordeaux at the time, were murdered. They were killed by four brothers, allegedly avenging their father's death. Now, it is assumed that these are the Marcano brothers, and the one who spearheaded this attack on Giuseppe Carello and killed 18 people total on All Saints' Day, 1934 in New Bordeaux, was in fact Salvatore Marcano. And it's already been proven that Salvatore Marcano has at least two brothers. One is Lou Marcano. He's over the French ward. And there's supposed to be at least one other brother that we will encounter in Mafia 3. So it's very possible that at one time Sal Marcano had three other brothers. Maybe something happened to one of them, and there's only two left still alive. Or perhaps all three Marcano brothers to Sal Marcano are still alive and breathing at the time of 1968 in Mafia 3. And as I mentioned, as far as we know, Sal Marcano also has one child. He may have more, but we do know about Giorgio Marcano, who of course is the one who shot Lincoln Clay in the head and basically assumed that he had killed Lincoln Clay and obviously did not. So the next New Bordeaux Tribune article we're going to go over is Section C3. Now, this one gives a lot more detail regarding Sal Marcano's backstory. This, unlike Section B6 a moment ago regarding the All Saints' Day Massacre, is obviously about Sal Marcano. The other one is just speculation and theory on my part. Now, he started off along with his brothers, because he obviously has brothers, in a shack in River Row. Now, there was a time early in his years where he got in some trouble. He had to go to jail. But according to the article, he turned his life around. And when he got out of jail, he started making a name for himself locally. really trying to be a good guy, making himself appear to be a good guy to his community and his fellow neighbors, giving out turkeys and whatnot. He eventually rises to become a land mogul, even a casino owner in Cuba in the 1950s. Now, there's an interesting part of this article I want to mention really quick, which pretty much establishes who Sal Marcano is and what he's all about. Treachery, patricide, and greed. So you could go back, and if you say Section B6 is also about Sal Marcano, that he betrayed or killed Giuseppe Corello, and maybe he did that to A, avenge his father, or B, because the word patricide is in there, that means you killed a parent. So it's also very possible that he killed his father, and he made it seem like that Giuseppe had something to do with a hit on his dad, and that riled up his brothers to go after Giuseppe Corello along with his thugs, and resulting in the All Saints' Day Massacre in 1934. So that there is very interesting, and a tell sign that maybe Sal Marcano had something to do with not only Giuseppe Corello's death, but his father's death as well. Now, some of the things that Sal Marcano is obviously going to be involved in or have connections with, or obviously profiting from, is the construction, real estate business, bars and clubs, alcohol, drugs, prostitution, weapons, gambling. Marcano's fingers is almost in every single pot in New Bordeaux. And it seems pretty apparent that he has control almost over everything in the city, including the New Bordeaux Police Department, politicians, judges, the media for the most part. One or two rioters have actually kind of met ill fate when they tried to expose him. They had little accidents. He's also obviously in the control of a union, or at least one or several unions. So he's either done this through coercion, buying, paying off people, influencing them, intimidating them. Sal Marcano does have his fingers in everything, not just in the business, legitimate and illegitimate, but also in the people that run New Bordeaux as well, like the police, politicians, judges, media, union, etc. So a lot of people are answering to Sal Marcano one way or the other. And that shows you just how powerful this man is. Unlike Empire Bay, which had 3 major Italian crime families, New Bordeaux only has one crime family. There are no factions. There is no dispute amongst the Godfathers because there is only one. And that Don is Sal Marcano. He doesn't have to deal with 2 other Dons or 1 other Don. He's the boss. He calls the shots. His word is law in the Bourbon City. Now, he also has ties to the Southern Union, a white supremacist group based off of the KKK, and they're currently up in a college making LSD, which is obviously going to be distributed to like poor neighborhoods, minority neighborhoods like Delray Hollow, in order to have a long-term negative effect on African Americans as well as other groups. Having that addiction, increasing crime, unemployment, and dependency upon Sal Marcano as, the drug dealer. Because at the top, he's making the money. There's the low-level enforcers, the lieutenants, the capos. They go all the way to the top of the crime family pyramid, where Sal Marcano sits on top in his golden throne. And of course, he's also, at the time, working on a major heist leading up to what happened to Sammy Robinson and the Black Mob. So it's quite possible that Sammy Robinson and the Black Mob maybe didn't want anything to do with the heist, and Sal Marcano didn't want them to expose him because it's such a big deal, that maybe that's the reason why Sammy Robinson and the Black Mob were taken out. Just another speculation on my part, but there had to be some big reason for Sal Marcano to do what he did. Or what happened to Sammy Robinson is just another prime example of how treacherous Sal Marcano is as a person. Now, through his treachery, factions have risen up in opposition to the Marcano crime family, and spearheading this opposition is Lincoln Clay, the survivor of the Black Mob Massacre. He was thought to have been killed by Sal Marcano's son, Giorgio, but rescued by Father James and nursed back to health. And of course, Lincoln Clay plots revenge against Sal Marcano to bring down his criminal empire piece by piece with the help of other factions who are opposed to Sal Marcano, who have been done wrong by him somewhere in the past. The Haitians, led by Cassandra, the Irish by Burke, and of course, the rebel Italians by Vito. And Vito and Sal Marcano don't exactly have the best history. When Vito Scaletta had to flee Empire Bay in 1951, thanks to some help from Leo Gallant, head of the commission, sent Vito to New Bordeaux in exile in order to protect Vito from all the repercussions that would have faced him should he have decided to stay in Empire Bay after the climax and conclusion of Mafia II. So he was sent to Empire Bay to be under Sal Marcano, who is obviously godfather of New Bordeaux. And things have never exactly been peachy between Vito and Sal, and he's always been treated like a bastard redheaded stepchild, most likely for what transpired up in Empire Bay. But at the same time, he was still a made man and protected. But Vito always got left out of things. He'd always get the shaft from Sal Marcano, always given, the dirty work. If there was something that had to be done that no one else wanted to do, he would say, Vito, hey, do this, do that. And Vito complained about it in numerous postcards in 1967 to Leo regarding some of the stuff that Sal Marcano was having Vito do, along with being left out of certain scores. So obviously Vito Scaletta is no fan or friend of Uncle Sal. Unfortunately, unless I left something out, which has been known to happen, that's pretty much all we know about Sal Marcano. And if I did, leave it below in the comments section. So unless we get a new postcard, our New Bordeaux Tribune article, trailer giving us a bit more information regarding Sal Marcano, that's all we're going to know about the guy until Mafia 3 comes out in October. However, unlike Vito Scaletta and Lincoln Clay, Sal Marcano is actually based loosely on a real-life person, Carlos Marcello. Now, I'm sourcing Wikipedia, which is 100% reputable. Most of the time, it is. Not always. Just want to put that little disclaimer there. So anyways, Carlos Marcello, known as the Godfather and the Little Man Marcello, was born in 1910, died in 1993, which means he lived to be 83 years old. He was an Italian-American mafioso who became the boss of the New Orleans crime family during the 1940s and held this position for nearly 30 years. Sound familiar? Very familiar, right? Because Sal Marcano is head of the New Bordeaux crime family, and he's obviously held that position of power in New Bordeaux for several decades. Now, let's talk a little bit about the early life of Carlos Marcello. By the way, I'm probably not going to go over all this article, but if you're interested, I will link it below in the description section. So we'll talk about his early life, and then we'll talk about him being a Louisiana crime boss. Now, he was born to Sicilian parents in French Tunisia and brought to the United States in 1911. They settled in a decaying plantation house near Metairie in Jefferson Parish in the suburb of New Orleans. So Metairie is basically right by New Orleans in real life. Young Marcello turned to petty crime in the French Ward, a.k.a. the French Quarter in real life. See, I get that confused. In real life, it's called the French Quarter, but in Mafia 3, it'll be called the French Ward. Continuing. He was later imprisoned for masterminding a crew of teenage gangsters who carried out armed robberies in small towns surrounding New Orleans. At the time, local newspapers compared him to a character of Fagin in Charles Dickens' novel Oliver Twist. The conviction was later overturned. However, the following year, he was convicted of assault and robbery and then was sentenced to the Louisiana State Penitentiary in West Feliciana Parish for 9 years, and he was released after 5 years. In 1938, Marcello was arrested and charged with the sale of more than 23 pounds of marijuana. Damn! Despite receiving another lengthy prison sentence and a $76,000 fine, which was a lot of money in 1938, 76 grand. Damn! Marcello served less than 10 months On his release from prison, Marcello became associated with Frank Costello, leader of the Giovanni crime family in New York City. At the time, Costello was involved in transporting illegal slot machines from New York City to New Orleans, and Marcello provided the muscle and arranged for the machines to be placed in local businesses. Now, as a Louisiana crime boss, by the end of 1947, Marcello had taken control of Louisiana's illegal gambling network. He had also joined forces with the New York mob associate Mayor Lansky in order to skim money from some of the most important casinos in the New Orleans area. According to former members of the Chicago outfit, Marcello was assigned a cut of the money skimmed from Las Vegas casinos in exchange for providing muscle, quote-unquote, in Florida real estate deals. By this time, Marcello had been selected as the godfather of New Orleans Mafia by the family's capos and the National Crime Syndicate. He held this position for the next 30 years. In 1975, there was an extortion trial. Two witnesses described Marcello as the godfather of the New Orleans Crime Syndicate. Marcello continued the family's long-standing tradition of fierce independence from interference from the mafioso in other areas. He enacted a policy that forbade mafioso from other families from visiting Louisiana without permission. On March 24, 1959, Marcello appeared before the United States Senate Committee investigating organized crime. Serving as chief counsel to the committee was Robert F. Kennedy. His brother, Senator John F. Kennedy, was a member of the committee. In response to the committee questioning, Marcello invoked the Fifth Amendment and refused to answer any questions relating to his background, activities, and associations. In 1960, Marcello donated $500,000 through Teamsters Union President Jimmy Hoffa to the Republican campaign of Richard M. Nixon, who unsuccessfully opposed the Democrat John F. Kennedy in the 1960 presidential election. So there's more about Marcello if you're interested. His deportation to Guatemala, convicted of conspiracy to violate federal racketeering laws, even something possibly to do with the Kennedy assassination, along with his death, which of course was once again in 1993. So there you have it. The backstory, more or less, for Sal Marcano, the main antagonist of Mafia III. And I would do a backstory video on Burke and Cassandra, but to be honest, we don't really know that much about either character. So until we have more information about Burke, Cassandra, Father James, Sammy Robinson, and other characters in Mafia 3, I'm probably not going to do a new backstory video for a while now. But if you have any recommendations for future backstory videos of characters you'd like to see me do that I haven't done already, by the way, I've already done Vito and Lincoln and now Sal, let me know below in the comments section.